joie et l'honneur de recevoir donc Dante et Lamere, qui sont le fils et l'épouse d'Alan Vega, bon, ceux qui ne le savent pas, et à ma gauche, Mathieu Copeland, qui est historien de l'art, qui a eu l'idée géniale, enfin, de consacrer à Alan Vega au MAC Lyon, c'était en 2009, la grande et unique d'ailleurs rétrospective qui a eu lieu en France des œuvres d'Alan Vega. Nous attendons peut-être viendront-ils ou pas, on verra, Marc Hurtado qui est musicien, cinéaste et qui a beaucoup joué avec Alan Vega, qu'il a connu il y a une vingtaine d'années. Et peut-être Hugues Perret nous rejoindra-t-il, mais ça n'est pas certain. Bon, voilà. Alors, c'est assez émouvant parce que c'est un hommage et on a beaucoup de choses probablement à voir, à dire. Mais je voulais peut-être lancer cette table ronde sur... alors, c'est vrai que c'est une figure. Pour ma part, c'était une figure, enfin, pour nous tous d'ailleurs, qui incarne plusieurs choses. Il me semble que ce n'est pas excessif de dire que c'est presque l'œuvre de Vega est l'une des grandes synthèses artistique du XXe siècle. C'est quelqu'un qui peut aussi bien lorgner, disons, du côté de la grande tradition artistique. D'ailleurs, ces light sculptures ne sont pas sans rapport avec toute une grande tradition artistique, que de l'underground, dont il est quasiment le nom. Enfin, c'est assez frappant. Voilà, mais avant peut-être de commencer cette table ronde, Marc, donc voilà Marc Hurtado. Bonsoir. Celui sans qui d'ailleurs cette soirée n'aurait pas eu lieu d'ailleurs, c'est vrai.
Alan commence dès 1969 vraiment à avoir un rapport très fort avec une présence très forte dans la scène underground new-yorkaise, puisqu'il est cofondateur du muséum. Mais il aura en fait, ce qui est intéressant de voir, c'est tout un parcours qui est très peu connu, c'est entre 59 et 69. C'est le moment où, ce qui est très très beau d'ailleurs, c'est d'imaginer ce moment-là, c'est-à-dire que Alan va faire des études d'art, aura deux professeurs historiques, formidable, Kurt Seligman, qui était l'un des grands artistes suisses surréalistes qui migrent à New York pendant la période de la guerre, et dont Alan va être très proche, et d'ailleurs, je me souviens aller chez lui, c'était la seule chose qu'il conservait toute sa vie, c'était une gravure que lui avait donnée Kurt, et Ad Reinhardt. Et ce qui est fantastique, c'est d'imaginer la proximité entre Alan Vega et Ad Reinhardt, c'est-à-dire un qui va proposer la mort de la peinture et l'autre qui va proposer en un temps le suicide de la musique. Donc j'aime beaucoup de voir les parallèles et à quel point justement les deux vont avoir une importance.
On retrouve aussi cette histoire de croix qu'on voit à peine dans le bleu, il y a toujours cette obsession. Chez lui dans In the Cross, it says that Reinhardt had this same obsession for the cross, that after this Alan developed not in the painting but in the sculptures. Kind of, it was kind of universal sign for him. More than, I don't think it. Maybe you can speak about that. But did he make this work of every sculpture have a form of a cross for a symbolic, religious symbolic, or only the signal of something universal or whatever?
It was more about the infinity. You know, in infinity, those lines would ultimately
connect.
Right. And so it was that feeling.
And if I remember well, that form only started to appear for the Blackstone show, right?
Exactly.
And that's when you guys met each other, just after the show.
After that, yes.
I'm just going to finish that. Et en fait, ce qui est intéressant, justement, c'est que cette forme arrive tard dans l'œuvre d'Alan. Elle n'arrive pas avant le début des années 80, des années 80, pour les collections qu'il aura chez Barbara Glaston. Auparavant, c'est ça qui est merveilleux, c'est qu'il va faire plutôt des stacks informes, des sculptures vraiment où la lumière, les ampoules elles-mêmes vont prendre la forme qu'elles peuvent prendre en se répandant juste sur le sol. Et il y a un moment de formalisation, un moment de formalisme, on peut dire, qui arrive à ce moment-là avec cette exposition et qui justement lui ouvre un signe qu'il utilisera jusqu'à la fin de sa vie. Et c'est amusant, je relisais l'entretien qu'on faisait ensemble avec Edith Berg, dont je parlais, qui était la cofondatrice de Artwright et Alan. Et Edith invite Alan à faire un livre en 88. Et Alan justement joue de la croix, mais d'une manière très intelligente et très belle, c'est-à-dire que ce sera un livre de photographie uniquement, et toutes les photos vont être mises en ligne, et il jouera de la tranche du livre pour faire la croix justement. Donc c'est des désir formel.
Warrior, Deuce Avenue Warriors, right. And in the apartment, like where we lived, he was taking photographs for
Right.
a long, long. He loved taking photographs.
Right.
That's another thing that people, I guess, probably haven't seen yet.
Not yet.
There is a huge, vault in the archives of photographs that
Right.
he took over the years, and he had them. We had a very long. You saw the apartment, very long wall, and he just in a line across. So when Edith came in with the idea of the book,
Right.
she saw this line of it. So he said, the book is the same thing, right?
Right.
The photographs go across, and then he's doing the writing
Sure.
up above and below, and but that linear, and the photographs are to me, they're very similar to the music, that linear quality that the music has, right? He always wanted to have that very hypnotic, linear. Even if he added other elements that came in and out, there was always that continuum,
Right.
of that constant.
Donc l'éditeur qui était venu dans leur appartement à New York, ils ont un très grand mur sur lequel il avait mis l'ensemble de ses photographies en ligne. Les photographies sont un aspect de l'œuvre d'Alan qu'on connaît que très peu, qu'on a d'ailleurs quasiment jamais vu, à part sur un ou deux, trois livres et quelques photographies. Et donc en voyant cela, c'est là à ce moment-là où ils ont eu cette idée pour la réalisation du livre, et à laquelle il a en plus rajouté l'ensemble de ses écrits sur la réalisation du livre.
J'avais une question pour toi, Marc, enfin, peut-être aussi pour toi, Mathieu, mais je pensais particulièrement à Marc, c'était quel lien, toi qui as beaucoup travaillé avec Alan et qui a filmé aussi, quel lien tu ferais entre la partie, justement, le travail de plasticien d'Alan et son travail de musicien? Est-ce qu'il y a des passerelles et comment tu les verrais ces passerelles?
Justement, c'est marrant parce que quand on avait parlé de ça une fois, et on voulait faire un concert et en même temps une expo. Et lui avait insisté vraiment d'une façon très claire en disant non, dans l'expo je veux pas de musique. Maybe you remember this. And he said no, the sculpture has this sound, this own sound. Les sculptures ont leur son, leur propre son. Et j'y crois totalement. Il y a d'ailleurs des croix, il y a des sortes de postes de radio, on peut se rapprocher, entendre les néons, le son électrique et tout. Et donc lui n'avait vraiment pas du tout besoin dans ses sculptures de mettre. On ne va jamais. There is no way to forcing an exhibition of Alan with music. It would be for him. It was not possible. But in fact, when you really concentrate in all the sculpture, they speak of the same thing. For me, it's exactly the same meaning. The meaning and the point of view and the point of expression in front of the wall, it's exactly the same. And I think that in all the art, it's me that speak of this. Maybe I am wrong, but I think that maybe Alan has a kind of vision very frontal, He's never like this or like this, he's very frontal. The thing that's like this, and it's really like when you go straight down, you pass one time a step and you go more far and more far. And it's all the story of Alan is going more far, like, comment on dit une flèche? Voilà, c'est exactement ça, c'est une histoire d'avoir poussé une flèche, tiré une flèche et toujours foncé, et ça jusqu'à sa mort. C'est-à-dire que l'album Hit, qui est le dernier album d'Alan, pour moi est le plus abouti, le plus féroce, le plus abouti, le plus concentré, le plus mystique.
But it's like a mandate,
J'aimerais bien avoir une
right?
information qui
Because
passe
that's
sur
why
le
he
disque.
believed in what he was doing so firmly.
Les morceaux qui sont sur l'album, ils ont tous été enregistrés à la même période. C'est une
No,
combinaison.
and maybe Liz can answer better than me. He asked if all the tracks from Hit were recorded in the same time.
He did the album the same way he did every album we worked on from the late 80s. Go into the studio to create sound, not with an intention to, okay, now I'm going to bring these 10 songs in and record them and put out an album. No, it was always about, he went into the studio religiously, like he would breathe or eat or draw or write to create sound. And then eventually I would say, okay guys, we need to like zoom in, like pick maybe 10 things and create like 10 songs that become the album. So I would say from the period right after Station, when did Station come out? From the time Station came out to when it came out, it was evolving because it was more a function of when outside sources would say, okay, here's a release date, and when our release
And it's something very strange is that from the things that I saw, he was really concentrated in a global work, you know, making many songs in the same time. It was like a chaos.
And the writing and the painting
And
and the sculptures, it was all
not
happening at the
obsessed
same
by
time.
the voice. The voice for him came at the end, but
We used to
really
call
at
it
the end.
vocal avoidance. All the music would be done, and then again we'd be like, okay, you gotta go in the sound. And he had it, and it was one performance. People would ask him to collaborate on tracks, and they'd be blown the fuck away because he would go into the booth and knock out the performance. It's a take everything out except the bass, and then just boom. What? You mean you don't have to? No, he did that whole album, Cubist Blues. Newspaper, show up, what am I supposed to show up, right? That was one, and there's one coming out, Alan Vega After Dark.
With Alan?
And with Ben Vaughn,
Right.
and two women who are like amazing blues musicians, and it was the same thing. We go to the studio, it was Stevie Ray Vaughan's studio, we went in, I had to go to a meeting, I come back, it's like 3 hours later, the album's done. They had no lyrics, nothing, they're just boom, off the
And
top of his
for A
head.
Way of Life, it was the
Same
same.
thing.
It's 2 hours.
No, although he was in my grandmother's attic.
Translate, please.
He wrote, oh, sorry? Oh, sorry.
International language.
Il y avait beaucoup de peine. Beaucoup. Non, c'était l'idée vraiment d'improvisation et de réalisation et d'être efficace. Et il avait vraiment, il avait vraiment le désir de ne pas caler les vocales jusqu'à la dernière minute, donc tout était prêt jusqu'au moment où il fallait le faire. Et Lise faisait l'anecdote de 2 albums qui ont été faits justement en quelques heures seulement, où il n'avait rien d'autre que les journaux ou les quelques notes qu'il aurait pris et faire l'ensemble d'un album en 3 heures. Donc,
But that's how he did everything.
Yeah, everything. When I met, quand j'ai fait mon album, I think this experience, Sniper, maybe it was for me 6 months or 8 months for making the music. So I said to him, I said, did I have to go with you? And he said, no, maybe because the times that I take the plane, it was finished, you know, in the studio. So in 2 days you record 30 songs.
Là, comme je ne peux pas dire.
Ah, oui.
This is why.
Ouais, en fait, j'ai enregistré un album avec Alan, et moi j'ai pris à peu près 8 mois ou... Hein? Sniper. J'ai pris 6 mois, 8 mois de travail.
Qui date de 10 ans maintenant, hein.
Ouais,
Quasiment, ouais.
Et donc du coup, je lui ai envoyé l'album et je lui ai dit, est-ce que tu veux que je vienne dans le studio? Il me dit, non, ça sert à rien. Puis il me dit, le temps que tu arrives, tu sais, j'aurais peut-être déjà fini avec l'avion. Et en fait, c'est pas fait comme ça, c'est qu'il s'est mis en studio, et enregistré tout, et les 13 chansons. Et j'ai encore vu mieux, le premier album que j'ai enregistré avec lui, qui s'appelait Re-Up, dans lequel il y avait aussi P-Orridge et Lydia Lunch. Là, c'était incroyable, parce qu'il savait que mes titres, il n'y avait pas de pause, il n'y avait pas de stop, ils étaient entrelacés. Il m'a dit, put the 4 tracks in one time, you know, without stopping. Et il a commencé à chanter les 4 chansons, mais sans jamais s'arrêter, tout le temps continuant à chercher, finding his lyrics and eating, and like a cow, you know, it was a war. And at the end, he go to me, with me, and say, it will be great. Don't worry, my face was... It was great. He was sure, he said, no, don't worry. It was great. It was totally great.
C'était pareil pour ces 2-3 premiers albums où il y avait beaucoup de guitare. Et une autre question, il était avec Marc Hurtado, moi j'aimais beaucoup cette période. Qu'est-ce qu'il est venu sur Américain?
Ah, Marc Hurtado, il sait. Did Alan have the same process for making Jukebox Baby or Saturn Drive, all this record? Or did he sing in one time also in the same kind of way? And also he asked, what did he make Mark Kush?
The early Alan Vega music was a little bit more traditional because he was doing a rockabilly, right?
Yeah.
Jukebox Baby was very rockabilly, and Collision Drive, and he had more of a traditional band. And then he got some popularity with that, so then the record label came swooping in and said, oh, we're going to make him a pop star, which he absolutely hated, and they brought in all the producers, and there's a song on the, he had Saturn Drive, which I love that album, and then he had Just a Million Dreams. I met him at the time that he was just finishing Just a Million Dreams, and one of the songs on that album is On the Run. It's like, what's going wrong? This ain't my song. Because they brought in the producers and this one and that one, and he's got this big deal, but all the money's going out to everyone else against his account, right? He's paying for the recording budget. I'm like, this is insane. But meanwhile, he's living at the Gramercy Park Hotel, and he's got all these effects machines linked up on the floor, and he's going back to his roots, which was, in the 60s, he was making electronic sound with a little transistor radio and a little recorder that he'd go in the street and find sounds. So before he met Marty, because Marty was coming from a jazz, a very, avant jazz, brilliant, but they were coming from two very different places, and I think a lot of people might not realize that the Suicide sound, that idea of the electronics, was something Alan was very steeped in, but he was also very steeped in R&B and traditional rock music, Elvis and Gene Vincent and Roy Orbison,
Miles Davis.
and all the jazz guys. Alan also, and Tchaikovsky, and he loved classical music. He was so eclectic in his tastes and what he listened to. He absorbed everything that he could. From literature to culture to pop culture to street. He wasn't. It was too much. I get excited.
The bad job.
No.
Got it.
But
I need to translate.
I know you do. I know. But
En
it's
fait, keep it. En fait, c'était de comparer les deux méthodes de production et de revenir à une méthode de production antérieure. C'est-à-dire qu'après, pour les deux premiers albums, effectivement, là, les maisons de disques ont mis beaucoup d'argent, qui allait au détriment du travail d'Alan, et avec beaucoup de producteurs. Alors que justement, la manière dont, quand Lise rencontre Alan, elle va dans sa chambre d'hôtel au Gramercy Hotel. Et là, elle le voit vraiment travailler avec des petites machines, chercher des sons, mais d'une manière très artisanale, qui revenait à la manière dont il créait les sons dès le milieu des années 60, où justement, avant qu'il rencontre Marty, déjà il cherchait à travailler avec des radios pour créer ces sons. Et ce qui va vraiment amener à l'ensemble du son pour suicide. Et ensuite, elle faisait tout un parallèle sur la musique qui a vraiment grandement influencé l'œuvre d'Alan. Et donc, les noms, vous vous en souvenez, parce que moi, je m'en souviens.
Merci.
Alan used to say that the big record labels, they see something in you, and that's the thing that they want, and then they proceed to try to destroy that by creating something else out of it, rather
Les
than
grandes
just
maisons de
letting
disques
the
voient quelque
artist,
chose
right?
dans vous, et ensuite, elles vont essayer de garder ça et de vous détruire.
You don't like to play guitar?
I'm sorry?
You don't like to play with him, Mark Hurtado's guitar?
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. It was more something where he was in his life personally, but the guitar was something that Alan was not against using, because New Raytheon, which was what, the third or fourth album I did? Deuce Avenue, Power on New Raytheon. There were 4 guitars in there. But he was always searching for something that he hadn't heard before. And the Cooch era, it was a very traditional, right? And Mark didn't necessarily want to go right in that bit. So it wasn't that, oh, you can't play with us or anything like that. No, yes, I am the Yoko Ono. Get rid of these people. No. Well, Suicide, we're recording the second Suicide album in the same recording studio as Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce was down the hall. And he'd come by, hey, what's going on, da-da-da. And they just kind of struck up a little friendship. And
I remember Alan telling me another story as well.
his manager didn't want Alan hanging out with him because
they thought drinking.
Well, yeah, they thought Bruce would be like, yeah, let's go out and drink some beers.
That was the thing, yeah.
And the manager was like, don't let him hang out with Alan Vega because he must be crazy. Poor Bruce is going to get corrupted. But they would hang out and Bruce would listen to his stuff. So the album that he was working on, Nebraska State Trooper, that song, he's got the little Alan Vega yelps. That's not out of, nowhere. You were obviously heard, he and Alan became close. And they've, what?
Okay.
What?
C'est bon? What do you want to get here?
What is it?
The first shows, how would it be seen?
Of Suicide?
No, the first show, the works, the exhibitions.
Oh, the exhibitions. Well, yeah, I mean,
the very first
one was with O.K. Harris, who discovered Andy fucking Warhol.
Museum.
Well, yeah, Alan
Present museum.
discovered, he created this Project of Living Artists. He had been working for the welfare department. He was married to a Holocaust survivor whom he met in college. And from 1960 to 1970, he was married to Mariette Germowitz, who survived the Holocaust. She witnessed her mother and siblings being dragged away by the Nazis. And her father was able to get her up. They were upstairs when the Nazis came downstairs. So he brought her up, snuck her out over the border into Brussels, where she ended up, or Belgium, where she ended up living in a convent through the war. They met years later. So from 60 to 70, he had just graduated from Brooklyn College, where he studied art, and with Ad Reinhardt and Kirk Seligman, and who's that, Bergdorf, Diller, and what's his name? Yeah. There's another, well, whatever. So with some very, influential to him.
The Dick.
But he was working for the welfare department, and then he saw Iggy Pop in 1969, and he said, if I'm going to be true to myself as an artist, he was a visual artist at that time, but he saw Iggy's performance, and Iggy was breaking the barriers between the audience and the performer, and what he was doing was so incredibly radical that Alan said, I have to put myself out of my comfort zone if I'm going to be, and the last thing I want to do is get on stage and perform. He was very shy. I mean, to the very end, he'd be like, you've got to get me out of this thing. And then he'd get on stage and he would the whole thing would take over, just like the vocal avoidance. He doesn't want to get in the vocal booth. Then he gets in the vocal booth and it's like, holy shit, this thing is just pouring out of him. It's like with everything else, it's like the art, whether it was visual art or music or writing or the drawings, it was something, an energy that literally had to go. We talk about like the belief in the intention, and somebody asked you to do something, collaborate with me, okay, put me in front of what I need to do, and I'm going to do it because the intent, I don't need to think about it, I don't need to plan it, I don't need to hear the thing ahead of time, I am just going to make exactly in the moment. And that's what he was all about, whether it was visual art or music or whatever it was, or taking a shit. It was seriously.
Can I ask a question about the guy you've got on your left?
This is Dante.
Who are you, my friend?
That's Dante. Alan's son, Dante Vega.
And nice to meet you.
Alan raised him.
Growing up with my dad was, it was really interesting. He, as a kid, I would try to, stay up late, and I'd always see him drawing, just in his room, drawing and creating sculptures in his room, and like, he'd have this growl to him when he made art, and I thought it was just something else, and I didn't know what it was, and it was so detailed. Like he would draw on one piece of paper, a drawing, and then he was done. But then he would just draw over it, and it's a new drawing, and he would the first one is gone, and exactly. I was like, wow, that's.
What do you do yourself?
I sing
now.
I sing right now.
Singing.
Yeah.
As a job.
I was trained in a choir.
All right.
When I was very little.
Great. Yeah.
And you're gonna sing tonight.
And I'm singing tonight.
Woo!
And we're going to finish for going to sing now.
Okay, cool.
Merci beaucoup.